Aliens invade Earth and starts hunting humans. The sky had always been blue in the morning, soft and calm, and the city below stirred with its usual life. People were walking to work, kids were playing in small parks, and birds flew freely above the rooftops. But no one could have known that this ordinary morning was about to change forever. Without any warning, the sun was blocked by a shadow that stretched across the city. It was not clouds. The shadow was dark, massive, and moving. People stopped in the streets, looking up in confusion. The sky had gone from blue to an unnatural gray, and in its center hovered an object that made the tallest buildings look tiny. A ship. Not one ship, but hundreds of them, floating silently, perfectly still, as if time itself had paused. At first, many thought it was some kind of mistake, a giant advertisement, or even a hoax. Phones came out of pockets and cameras were raised, but then the humming began. At first it was faint, like a low rumble beneath the earth, but soon it grew louder, filling every street, every home, every chest with a vibration that made people shiver. Windows rattled, car alarms screamed. Dogs barked and cowered, sensing something strange, something dangerous. People screamed and chaos began. Military forces tried to respond immediately. Jets scrambled into the sky, but they slowed and faltered when they got close to the ships. Weapons seemed to have no effect. Bullets bounced off invisible shields, missiles disappeared into the air before reaching their targets. Panic spread, but this panic was not like normal fear. It was primal. Humans began to realize they were not facing a normal enemy. Something in the air, something about the way the ships moved, told them that these creatures, if they were creatures, were not like anything humanity had faced before. And then the first attacks began. They were not indiscriminate. The ships did not fire randomly. Instead, they targeted people, random citizens, children, adults, workers, anyone walking or moving. Strange beams of light descended from the hovering ships, and within seconds, the people touched by them vanished. There was no blood, no explosion, only a sudden emptiness where a human body had been. Screams filled the streets. Families ran, clutching each other, but everywhere they moved, the aliens seemed to anticipate them. There was no escape. In one quiet neighborhood, a young man named Alex was leaving his apartment when he saw the shadow. He froze. Above him, the closest ship moved slightly, almost as if it had noticed him specifically. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. Then, without warning, a beam shot down in front of him. He jumped back, barely escaping it. Behind him, the street was empty. People had vanished as if swallowed by the earth. His mother's voice rang in his memory. "Always keep calm," she had said. He clenched his fists, trying to stay calm, even though every instinct screamed to run. Alex ran into the narrow alleys of the city, dodging through debris and overturned cars. He could hear the hum of the alien ships above, a sound that seemed to touch his bones. He saw groups of survivors huddled in corners, some crying, some shouting, others trying desperately to find their loved ones. A few military vehicles roared past, their sirens screaming, but even those were mostly ineffective. It became clear that the aliens were not attacking for conquest or theft. They were hunting. Every human they saw, they marked, and those marked would vanish. As he moved, Alex noticed that the aliens seemed to scan people with some kind of device, invisible to human eyes. Some were taken instantly, some were left, but it was unpredictable. This randomness terrified him the most. No one knew why one person lived while another disappeared. A woman screamed for her child, but the child had already vanished. A man tried to fight, but bullets did nothing. Even the brave soldiers seemed powerless. Fear was no longer just a feeling, it was a force that gripped the city, making every step dangerous. Alex finally found shelter in an abandoned building. The walls were cracked and dust fell from the ceiling, but it was hidden from the street. Inside, he was not alone. A small group of survivors had gathered there, people who had escaped the initial attacks. There was Sarah, a school teacher, David, a mechanic, and old Mr. Jenkins, who had lived in the city all his life. They exchanged wary glances, each one trying to make sense of the nightmare outside. Alex told them what he had seen, and together they started to plan. It was clear that staying in one place was dangerous. The aliens seemed to have sensors that could detect movement, heat, or maybe even thoughts. Alex could not understand. "We need to move," David said. "We can't stay here, they'll find us eventually." The others nodded. Fear was heavy in the room, but beneath it was a flicker of determination. Humanity had always survived against impossible odds. Could they survive this? Hours passed, and the group moved cautiously through the streets, hiding behind rubble and abandoned vehicles. The city was no longer recognizable. Skyscrapers that once symbolized human achievement were now shadows of destruction. Fires burned in distant blocks, smoke twisting into the gray sky. The few remaining humans moved like ghosts, whispering warnings to each other. The city had become a hunting ground, and every step could be their last. During their movement, Alex noticed something strange. The aliens, for all their power, did not expect humans to act unpredictably. They could anticipate patterns, but humans could change them. In a moment of instinct, Alex ran through a narrow alley, zigzagging in a way that no algorithm could predict. The alien scanning beam passed by him, missing him completely. His heart raced with a mixture of terror and hope. Maybe humans were not as defenseless as the aliens believed. The group eventually reached a subway station, an underground maze that seemed to offer safety. Here, they could hide and rest, at least temporarily. Alex sat against the cold concrete wall, trying to catch his breath. The others were equally exhausted, but there was a shared understanding. They needed to survive, not just for themselves, but for the future of humanity. Mr. Jenkins spoke quietly. "This is only the beginning. They came here because they think humans are weak. We have to show them we are not." Outside, the city continued to fall into chaos. Alien ships hovered silently, scanning and striking, but small acts of defiance went unnoticed. People slipped through the cracks, moved in shadows, and survived against impossible odds. For the first time, Alex felt a strange sense of pride mixed with fear. Humanity had always been underestimated. Today was no different. The aliens thought they had the advantage, but they had not counted on human unpredictability, courage, or willpower. As night fell, the survivors huddled together, sharing food and stories. Fear was still present, but so was hope. Alex could not sleep. His mind kept replaying the images of people vanishing, of empty streets and burning buildings. Yet he also remembered the feeling of the beam missing him, the thrill of outsmarting the hunters for just a moment. If humans could survive this first day, maybe there was a chance. Maybe humans could fight back. The world had changed in hours. The sky, once a place of calm, was now dominated by alien ships. Humanity was being hunted like prey, but humans were not prey. They were survivors. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins made a silent promise to each other. No matter what happened, they would keep moving, keep hiding, and when the time came, fight back. In the distance, a faint hum filled the air. It was the aliens, still scanning, still hunting. But somewhere beneath that hum, in the heart of every human, a spark burned. A spark of hope, a spark of defiance. The aliens might be stronger, faster, smarter, but humans had one thing they could never calculate: courage, unpredictability, and the will to survive. And in that dark, uncertain night, as the city lay in ruins and the aliens hunted tirelessly, the first whispers of resistance began. The humans who survived today would be the ones to change the course of tomorrow. They would not just run. They would not just hide. They would survive. The city was quiet underground, but the silence was not comforting. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins moved cautiously through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. Every corner, every shadow felt alive with danger. The city above was still under siege. Alien ships hovered in the sky, scanning, striking, hunting. It seemed impossible that anyone could survive more than a day. Yet somehow, small pockets of humanity persisted. The group reached a junction in the subway system. David stopped and knelt, listening carefully. The faint hum of the alien ships could be heard even down here. It was a sound that chilled the blood, a vibration that seemed to penetrate the bones. "They're still out there," David whispered. "And they're learning," Alex frowned. "Learning what?" "Humans," David said simply. "We're unpredictable. They expected everyone to panic and run in straight lines, but that's not how humans act. Some of us survive because we think differently, move differently. They notice it. They adapt." Sarah shivered but nodded. "Then we need to think differently too. We can't just hide." Mr. Jenkins adjusted his worn jacket and said quietly, "Survive first, fight later. If we don't make it through the night, none of our cleverness matters." They agreed and moved further into the subway tunnels. The walls were damp, the air thick and musty. Pipes ran along the ceilings, dripping water in uneven patterns. Alex felt his chest tighten. Even underground, they were not completely safe. The aliens had technology far beyond anything humans had seen, but for now, the tunnels offered temporary refuge. Hours passed, and the group moved silently, listening to every sound. Occasionally, distant screams or explosions reached them from above. Each noise reminded them of the world they had lost and the constant danger that surrounded them. They stopped at an abandoned station, settling behind overturned benches. Alex leaned against a wall, trying to think. The first day had been chaos, but now the challenge was understanding how to survive tomorrow. "We need to know more about them," Alex said finally. "If we understand how they hunt, maybe we can stay one step ahead." David nodded. "I've been watching. They use some kind of scanning device. It can detect movement, heat, maybe even fear. It's not perfect. That's why some people escape. But we need to move carefully, plan our steps, and never act predictably." Sarah looked worried. "Even with planning, they're still so powerful. They've taken entire streets, entire neighborhoods. How can humans fight that?" Mr. Jenkins smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Not with strength alone. Humans don't have their armor, their beams, or their speed, but we have other things: creativity, unpredictability, courage. They calculate patterns, not emotions. That's where we win." The group fell silent, letting his words sink in. It was true. Humans had survived worse, faced enemies stronger and smarter. Humanity had always found ways to adapt, to resist, to fight back. And that spark, that defiance, was the only hope they had. When the night grew deeper, the group cautiously ascended to street level, using a side exit from the subway. The city above was eerily quiet. Fires burned in the distance, but no people could be seen. Alien ships hovered silently like giant predators. Every step felt dangerous. Yet they had to move. Staying in one place too long would make them easy targets. As they moved through the streets, they noticed signs of other survivors. Graffiti marked safe paths, notes left on walls warned of traps, and small fires indicated temporary camps. Humanity had not disappeared completely. People were organizing in small groups, surviving in shadows, using abandoned buildings, sewers, and hidden paths to avoid the hunters. Alex paused at a street corner. He spotted a group of children huddled behind a car, too scared to move. He motioned to Sarah, and together they guided the children through a safer path, keeping low and quiet. Even in the face of terror, humans were helping humans. Compassion and teamwork had not disappeared. It was part of what made them resilient, and the aliens could not calculate that. Hours later, the group found a building they could enter safely. It had been a library, now abandoned, but the walls were intact, and there were shelves that could be used for hiding. They lit a small fire in a metal container to keep warm, careful to hide the smoke from above. For the first time that day, they allowed themselves to rest. David pulled out a notebook he had salvaged. He had been sketching maps, noting patterns of alien attacks and marking places where humans had survived or been taken. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the sketches. "They move in waves, but they leave gaps. They predict behavior, but they can't predict chaos." Humans create chaos without thinking. That's our advantage. Alex studied the drawings. "So if we move unpredictably, we might survive longer or even help others escape." "Yes," David said, "but we can't just move randomly. We need to plan our chaos. We need to create diversions, traps, anything that confuses them." Sarah looked uneasy. "And what about fighting back? Can humans really hurt them?" Mr. Jenkins leaned forward. "Not yet, not directly, but we can fight indirectly. We can survive. We can outsmart them. And eventually, when humans understand their weaknesses, we can strike. That's how humanity always fights." The night was long. Outside, the hum of alien ships never ceased. Occasionally, a beam of light would sweep across the streets, sending shadows dancing against walls. The survivors held their breath each time, hearts pounding. The city above was a hunting ground, and they were tiny prey, moving carefully, hoping not to be noticed. But even in the darkness, small victories happened. They noticed humans escaping. A man led a group through a collapsed subway tunnel. A family ran through the alleys. A dog barked loudly, drawing an alien beam away from a small child. Every act of survival was a reminder that humans were not helpless. Their unpredictability, their courage, their refusal to give up made them different, made them dangerous in a way the aliens could not yet understand. By dawn, the group had learned more about the alien patterns. They noticed that the aliens often paused before taking a human. They scanned, calculated, and only then acted. Sometimes, hesitation gave humans time to escape. Alex realized that fear could be turned into a tool. By acting calmly, by moving unpredictably, humans could survive even the most dangerous situations. The first morning after the invasion was unlike any other. The sky remained gray, filled with hovering ships. Fires still burned and streets were largely empty. But beneath the surface, humanity was organizing. Small groups of survivors were talking, planning, sharing information. The aliens were powerful, but they had underestimated humans. They had underestimated the ability to adapt, to think differently, and to survive against impossible odds. Alex looked at his companions. "We can't stay here forever," he said. "We need to move. There are more people out there, more humans who need help, and we need to find a safe place, somewhere we can plan, somewhere we can learn more about them." Sarah nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then we move." Together, Mr. Jenkins adjusted his jacket again. "Remember, slow and steady, every step counts. Every decision could be life or death." David checked the notebook one last time. "I think I've found a pattern. If we follow this route, we have the best chance of avoiding them for now. It's risky, but staying in one place is riskier." And so they moved again. Through ruined streets, over fallen debris, past burned-out cars, always keeping low, always moving unpredictably. The city was a labyrinth of danger, but they were learning how to navigate it. Along the way, they encountered other survivors. Some joined them briefly, offering information or sharing supplies. Others ran past without stopping, too scared to interact. Each interaction reminded them that they were not alone, and that humans were stronger when working together. By midday, the group had made significant progress. They had avoided multiple alien patrols, used abandoned buildings for cover, and even helped a few humans escape. Each small success strengthened their confidence. Humans could survive this. Humans could fight back, not yet with strength, but with intelligence, courage, and determination. As they reached the edge of the city, the scale of destruction became clear. Entire blocks were empty, streets were cracked, fires still burned, and smoke twisted into the sky. But in the midst of this devastation, signs of resistance appeared. Messages scrawled on walls, safe paths marked, hidden supplies left in strategic locations. Humans were fighting back in subtle ways, using every tool available, adapting to survive. Alex looked at the horizon. The alien ships were still there, still hovering, still hunting. But he felt something new, hope. The first day had been a nightmare. The second day was a battle, but humanity was not defeated. They were learning, adapting, surviving, and one day they would turn the tables. For now, survival was enough. But even in survival, humans were winning small victories. The aliens might be stronger, faster, smarter, but humans had courage, unpredictability, and unity. And those were weapons the aliens could not calculate. The group found a temporary safe house outside the city. It was a small building on the outskirts, abandoned and hidden from the main streets. Here they could rest, plan, and regroup. They shared food, water, and information. They talked quietly about the events of the past 2 days, analyzing what worked, what failed, and what they could do next. Even in the midst of fear, there was laughter. A joke about a narrowly avoided beam, a shared story about a small act of bravery. It was a reminder that humanity endured not just through strength, but through spirit. The aliens might have invaded, might have hunted, might have destroyed, but the human heart remained intact. As night fell again, the survivors prepared for another day. The alien ships would continue to hunt. Danger would continue to lurk around every corner. But humanity had learned something important. They were not helpless. They were not prey. They were survivors, thinkers, fighters, and this knowledge was their first weapon. Alex looked at his companions, his friends, his fellow survivors. "Tomorrow we do more than survive," he said. "Tomorrow we show them that humans are not easy to hunt." Sarah nodded. "Tomorrow we fight in our own way." Mr. Jenkins smiled. "Yes. The aliens may have the technology, but humans have something stronger: heart, courage, and willpower." David closed the notebook. "And unpredictability, don't forget that. That's our edge." The night grew deep, filled with the faint hum of alien ships above, but for the first time Alex felt a sense of purpose. Humanity had been hunted, yes, but they had also learned. And learning was the first step to victory. The city was no longer just a hunting ground. It was becoming a battlefield of shadows. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins had spent the previous days observing, hiding, and learning. Now the survivors were beginning to understand something crucial. The aliens were strong, yes, but not perfect. They could anticipate patterns, but humans were unpredictable. That unpredictability was a weapon, and it was time to use it. The group moved cautiously through the outskirts of the city at dawn. Broken streets and collapsed buildings created natural cover. Fires still burned in distant blocks, sending smoke twisting into the gray sky. The hum of the alien ships above never ceased. Every sound, every shadow, every movement had to be measured. Yet the survivors carried a growing confidence. They had survived the first 2 days. They had learned, adapted, and outsmarted the hunters in small ways. David led the way, consulting his notebook, which now contained sketches of alien patrol routes, safe passages, and patterns of attacks. "They move in waves," he whispered, pointing to one of the maps. "They scan an area, take what they can, then move on. But between waves, there's a short window, maybe 2-3 minutes, where humans can move safely if we're careful." Alex nodded, studying the sketch. "We need to create more windows like that. We need to confuse them, make them hesitate, make them miss." Sarah frowned. "How do we confuse something that sees everything? That hunts with precision." Mr. Jenkins smiled faintly. "With cleverness, with tricks. Humans survive because we can think outside patterns. The aliens calculate, predict, and execute, but they can't feel. They can't imagine what humans might do that doesn't make sense. That's our advantage." They decided to act. Survival alone was no longer enough. If humans could outsmart the aliens, even in small ways, they could buy time for others, help more people escape, and maybe even learn weaknesses that could be exploited later. Their first plan was simple but risky. They would lure an alien patrol into an abandoned warehouse, using noise and movement as bait. Then, they would trap the patrol, confusing the sensors long enough to escape and lead other humans through a safer path. As they approached the building, the group paused. The streets were quiet, but the hum of alien scanning devices was close. Shadows of the massive ships moved above, their strange lights scanning methodically. Alex signaled the group to spread out and take positions. David set small traps using wires, rocks, and leftover metal. Sarah whispered instructions to a group of hidden civilians, teaching them how to stay silent and move unpredictably. The first patrol approached, gliding down the street in their strange, hovering suits. Their scanning beams swept over the area, searching for life. Alex held his breath as the first beam passed dangerously close. Then, with a quick signal, David triggered the trap. Rocks clattered against metal, wires snapped, creating a confusing noise that made the patrol hesitate. The beam flickered, the sensors momentarily confused. The group seized the moment. Civilians darted from hiding spots, running in unpredictable patterns. Alex led the way, zigzagging through alleyways and collapsing walls, with the alien patrol struggling to predict their movements. For the first time, humans had gained a small victory, not by fighting directly, but by outsmarting their hunter. After the patrol moved on, the group gathered in the warehouse. Faces were lit with relief and excitement. Small victories like these were rare, but they mattered. Every human saved, every patrol confused, every successful escape was proof that the aliens were not invincible. "See," Mr. Jenkins said quietly, "humans adapt, humans survive, and one day that adaptation will be their downfall." Alex looked out of a broken window at the city. Smoke rose in distant streets. Fires flickered against the gray sky. The aliens were still hunting, still powerful, still terrifying. But now humanity had learned to fight in their own way. Guerrilla tactics, traps, unpredictability. Small victories could turn into larger ones if humans remained clever, united, and fearless. Over the next few hours, the group continued their journey. They moved cautiously through the ruins, avoiding patrols and using abandoned buildings as cover. Along the way, they found more survivors. Some were scared, some injured, but all were determined to survive. Alex realized that every human he helped, every person who learned to move differently, was part of a growing resistance. By midday, the group had established a temporary base in an old factory on the edge of the city. It was damaged, dusty, and dark, but it offered safety and room to plan. Inside, Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins shared what they had learned. They studied maps, discussed patterns, and prepared for the next moves. Every decision now carried weight. One mistake could mean death, but careful planning and human ingenuity gave them hope. Sarah spoke up. "We can't just survive. We need to help others, guide them, show them how to move safely. The more people who understand, the stronger humanity becomes." David nodded. And we need to keep confusing the aliens. Small traps, diversions, unpredictable movements. We don't need to kill them. We need to survive and learn. Alex realized she was right. Humanity had always thrived not by brute force, but by intelligence and cooperation. Even in the face of impossible odds, humans found ways to adapt. That was their strength, and it was now their weapon. The group spent the rest of the day scouting nearby areas. They marked safe paths, set small diversions, and helped scattered civilians move to safer locations. Every action was careful, deliberate, and unpredictable. The aliens above could calculate, could hunt, but they could not predict human creativity. Each small success was a reminder of what made humans different, what made humans strong. By nightfall, the survivors returned to their factory base. They were tired, dirty, and hungry, but spirits were high. Small victories had been achieved, civilians had been helped, patrols had been confused, humans had survived another day. Alex looked at the faces around him. Fear was still present, but so was determination. Humanity was not defeated. They had learned, adapted, and found ways to fight back without confronting the aliens directly. Every act of cleverness, every unpredictable move was a step toward survival, and eventually toward victory. As the night deepened, the hum of alien ships continued above. Their lights swept across the city, scanning, hunting, searching for humans. But below, in the shadows, humans moved with purpose. They were learning, adapting, and surviving. And with every passing day, they grew stronger, smarter, and more dangerous in ways the aliens could not understand. The survivors huddled in the dark factory, sharing food and water, speaking in whispers about what they had learned and what they could do next. Alex thought about the people they had helped, the patrols they had outsmarted, and the small victories that made survival possible. He realized that these small victories were the first steps toward something greater. Humanity had been hunted, but they were no longer helpless. They were clever, resourceful, and resilient, and in that resilience lay hope. Alex closed his eyes briefly, thinking about the days to come. The aliens were still powerful, still relentless, still terrifying. But humans had something they could not understand: courage, creativity, and unpredictability. Every decision now, every movement was a calculated risk, and each successful risk gave humanity more knowledge, more strength, and more hope. By the early hours of morning, the group had set new plans. They would move further into safer areas, continue helping others, and find ways to confuse the aliens. They would survive, adapt, and prepare for the day when they could fight not just to escape, but to reclaim their world. Alex looked at Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins. "We've learned something important," he said. "The aliens may be stronger, faster, and smarter, but humans are unpredictable, and unpredictability is our greatest weapon." Sarah nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "Then we use it. Every day, every movement, every small victory counts." Mr. Jenkins smiled, a faint glimmer of hope in his tired eyes. "Humans have always survived against impossible odds. This is no different. We fight with our minds, our courage, and our willpower. And one day the aliens will learn that humans cannot be hunted easily." David closed the notebook and checked the maps one last time. "Tomorrow, we continue. We move, we help more people. And we show that humanity is not afraid. We survive, we adapt, and we grow stronger every day." The night stretched on, and the hum of the alien ships filled the air. Outside, the city was quiet, the fires dim, and the streets empty of life. But beneath that quiet, humans moved, planned, and survived. They were learning, adapting, and preparing. They were no longer just prey. They were survivors, thinkers, and fighters. And in that dark, uncertain night, humanity took its first real steps toward resistance. Small victories, clever moves, and unyielding determination marked the beginning of something greater. The aliens had come to hunt, but humans were no longer easy prey. The first sparks of rebellion were alive, quietly growing, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when that moment came, humans would show the universe that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most terrifying enemy. Alex felt a fire in his chest. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had underestimated courage, unpredictability, and willpower. And that mistake, he knew, would change everything. The hunt was not over, but the game had changed. Humans had learned to fight back. Humans had learned to survive, and humans were just getting started. The city had become a maze of shadows and fire, but the survivors were no longer just hiding. They had learned, adapted, and now they were ready to take control of their fate. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins moved through the ruined streets with purpose, their steps measured, their eyes alert. The alien ship still hovered above, scanning, hunting, and striking with terrifying precision. Yet humans were beginning to fight back, not with brute force, but with intelligence, courage, and unpredictability. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. They would lure a squad of alien hunters into a controlled area of the city, confuse their sensors, and then escape while leading other humans to safety. It was risky, but the risk was necessary. Survival alone was no longer enough. It was time to show that humanity could fight back. David checked the notebook one last time, confirming the patrol routes and timing. If we act now, we can control the situation. The aliens don't expect humans to work together on this scale. They'll be confused, and that's our advantage. Alex nodded. We've trained enough, planned enough, we can do this. Sarah adjusted her backpack, filled with small tools, wires, and makeshift devices scavenged from the ruins. We're not just surviving anymore. We're taking action, and every person we help today becomes part of the resistance. Mr. Jenkins placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Remember, patience and cleverness win battles that strength alone cannot. Humans have survived worse than this. They moved carefully through the streets, avoiding open areas where the scanning beams could detect them. Every step, every movement, was calculated but unpredictable. Civilians who had joined them were nervous but followed instructions. For the first time, they were not just hiding. They were acting, planning, and taking the fight to the hunters. As they approached the designated area, the hum of alien ships grew louder, the lights above scanning the streets methodically. Alex signaled everyone to take positions. David set traps using debris, wires, and small explosive devices scavenged from abandoned cars. Sarah directed civilians into hidden spaces, ensuring they would be safe while the alien squad approached. The alien hunters arrived in silence, gliding above the streets with their scanning beams cutting through the shadows. They moved in formation, precise and deadly, unaware that humans were ready for them. At the first signal, David triggered the traps. Rocks fell, metal clanged, and small fires flared up, creating confusion. The hunters paused, their sensors flickering as they tried to analyze the unexpected chaos. Humans moved unpredictably through the streets, zigzagging, hiding, and running in ways the aliens could not calculate. One of the civilians, a young man who had lost his family on the first day, led the way through a narrow alley, drawing a scanning beam away from a hidden group of women and children. Every small act of courage and quick thinking disrupted the hunters' control. Alex and the others guided the civilians to a safer area while the alien squad struggled to adapt. For the first time, humans were not just surviving, they were dictating the terms of engagement. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, could not predict human unpredictability. Each action, each diversion weakened their control over the hunt. By the time the squad finally moved on, the humans had achieved something remarkable. They had rescued a group of civilians, escaped detection, and learned valuable information about the hunters' behavior. Every step was a victory, every escape a demonstration of human resilience and ingenuity. The survivors regrouped in an abandoned building, their hearts pounding but spirits high. They had faced the hunters directly, and while no one had been able to harm the aliens, they had outsmarted them. The city had become a battleground, and humans were learning to fight in ways the aliens could not anticipate. "We've proven something today," Mr. Jenkins said quietly. "Humans are not prey. We are clever, resourceful, and brave. We can survive, we can protect others, and we can challenge the hunters in ways they cannot expect." Alex nodded, feeling a fire of determination in his chest. "We can do more than survive. We can take control. The aliens may have technology, but humans have creativity, courage, and unity, and that's something no machine can calculate." Over the next few days, the survivors expanded their operations. Small groups moved through the city, rescuing civilians, creating diversions, and confusing the hunters. They learned how to use the environment to their advantage. Collapsed buildings became traps, debris was used to block paths, and shadows provided cover. Every small victory strengthened the morale of the survivors and showed that humanity was capable of more than they had ever imagined. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins became leaders, teaching others how to move unpredictably, how to create diversions, and how to survive in the midst of chaos. Every human they helped became part of a growing network of resistance. Humanity was no longer scattered and weak. It was organized, intelligent, and determined. One day, while observing a patrol from a hidden vantage point, Alex noticed something important. The hunters had a pattern, but it was rigid. They moved in predictable waves, pausing briefly before scanning new areas. If humans could anticipate those pauses, they could plan safe movements and even create traps that would confuse the aliens further. He shared his observations with the group. We can control their movements. We can lead them into areas where we decide the engagement. Every diversion, every unpredictable step makes them weaker. We don't need to fight directly, we need to outthink them. Sarah smiled. It's working. Every day more humans are surviving. We're showing them that they can't just hunt us without consequences. Every small victory is part of something bigger. David nodded, flipping through his notebook. We've already mapped large parts of the city. We know the safe paths, the weak spots in their patrols, and the patterns in their hunting. We can use this knowledge to protect more people and gain more control. The aliens continued to hover above, but their efficiency was slowly declining. Humans were learning, adapting, and surviving. Their unpredictability frustrated the hunters, causing delays and mistakes. For the first time, the survivors realized that they could influence the battle, not just react to it. Humanity had gone from prey to clever opponents, using intelligence, courage, and unity to challenge a far stronger enemy. By nightfall, the group decided to take a bolder step. They would move into the heart of the city, where alien patrols were most concentrated, to rescue a group of civilians trapped in a high-rise building. It was dangerous, but success would show that humans could challenge the hunters directly and save lives in the process. Alex led the group through shadows and rubble, teaching civilians how to move unpredictably and stay silent. They avoided open streets, using hidden pathways, collapsed walls, and narrow alleys to remain undetected. Every step was calculated but unpredictable, every movement designed to confuse the hunters' sensors. When they reached the high-rise, the building was partially collapsed, but the trapped civilians were inside. The group moved quickly, coordinating to create distractions outside while others guided the civilians to safety. Fires were set in controlled ways, debris was knocked down to block scanning beams, and humans moved unpredictably to confuse the hunters. The operation was a success. Civilians were rescued, and the hunters, frustrated and confused, eventually moved on. It was the first direct human-led operation against the hunters that had a positive outcome. The survivors celebrated quietly, knowing that every person saved was proof of their growing strength and intelligence. Back in their safe base, the group reflected on the events of the day. "We've learned something important," Mr. Jenkins said. "Humans can outthink them. We can survive and protect each other, and every action we take teaches us more about them." Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. We're not just surviving anymore. We're showing the hunters that humans are not weak, that we are clever, brave, and united. And one day we'll take this fight even further. Sarah added, "Every small victory inspires others. Every life saved strengthens humanity. We are no longer just victims. We are a force they cannot ignore." David smiled, flipping through his notebook filled with maps, notes, and observations. "We have the knowledge, we have the courage, and we have each other. That's more than enough to start turning the tide." The survivors continued their operations, helping humans escape, setting clever traps and confusing the hunters. Every action, every small success, strengthened morale and built confidence. Humanity was no longer passive. They were adapting, learning, and challenging the aliens in ways that technology alone could not counter. By the end of the week, the city was no longer just a place of fear and hunting. It was a place of resistance, intelligence, and courage. Humans had learned to fight with their minds, to survive with creativity, and to protect each other with unity. Every day, the hunters faced growing challenges, unable to predict the unpredictability of human action. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins stood together in the remnants of a building looking at the city. Fires still burned, alien ships hovered above, but the streets below were alive with movement. Humans were no longer hiding. They were acting, planning, and surviving. Alex smiled faintly. "The aliens thought they could hunt us easily. They were wrong. They've underestimated courage, unpredictability, and willpower. That mistake will cost them." Sarah nodded. We're not just surviving, we're teaching humanity to fight back, to think, and to protect each other. That's how we win. Mr. Jenkins placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. Today, humans showed that they can resist. Tomorrow, we grow stronger, and one day we will reclaim our world. David closed the notebook, his eyes focused and determined. The aliens are powerful, but humans have something far stronger: heart, mind, and unity. And that's a weapon they cannot defeat. The city slept fitfully, fires casting shadows against the gray sky, but beneath that darkness, humans moved, planned, and fought in their own way. They were no longer easy prey. They were clever, resourceful, and brave. And in that courage, in that intelligence, in that unity, humans found a weapon far more powerful than alien technology. The hunt was far from over, but the game had changed. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were resisting, adapting, and preparing for the day when they could reclaim their world. The city had changed. Fires still burned in the distance, and smoke twisted into the gray sky, but the streets were no longer silent. Humans moved with purpose now, not just to survive, but to reclaim their world. The alien ships hovered above, scanning relentlessly, but they were no longer in full control. Humanity had learned, adapted, and fought back in ways the hunters could not anticipate. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins led a larger group of survivors through the ruins, each person knowing their role. Some would create diversions, others would guide civilians through safer paths, and a few would set clever traps to confuse the alien patrols. Every step was coordinated, every action deliberate, but also unpredictable. The aliens could not calculate the combined unpredictability of so many humans working together. David stopped and checked his notebook. The aliens are stronger than ever, but they've become predictable in some ways. Their patterns are rigid, their waves of scanning still follow timing we've observed. If we act now, we can exploit it. Alex nodded. We've trained, we've planned, and we've survived. Today we push forward, not recklessly but smartly. Every person we save, every trap we set, shows the aliens that humans cannot be hunted without resistance. Sarah adjusted her pack, filled with tools, ropes, and makeshift devices. We've learned to survive, yes. But today we show them that humans fight back, not with brute force, but with courage, intelligence, and unity. Mr. Jenkins surveyed the city. Remember, patience and planning win battles technology cannot. We move carefully, we act together, and we protect as many people as we can. That is our strength. The first operation of the day involved rescuing civilians trapped in a half-collapsed apartment complex near the center of the city. Alien patrols hovered above, scanning methodically, but humans had already set diversions in surrounding streets. Fires were lit in controlled ways, debris knocked over to confuse sensors, and groups of survivors moved unpredictably to draw attention away from the trapped civilians. Alex led the way, signaling his group to stay low and move in coordinated patterns. Every step was measured, every movement designed to confuse the hunters. The civilians followed instructions carefully, learning to move unpredictably, to remain silent, and to trust in the leadership of those who had survived longer. When they reached the building, they found the trapped civilians huddled in fear. Alex whispered encouragement, guiding them out safely while Sarah and David activated diversions outside. The aliens were drawn away, confused by unexpected movements and noises. For the first time, humans had executed a major operation that directly challenged the hunters' control and succeeded without a single casualty. Back in their temporary base, the group celebrated quietly. Every person rescued, every trap that succeeded, every diversion that worked was proof that humans could resist. Humanity was no longer just surviving, they were asserting themselves. "We've done it," Sarah said, her eyes shining. "We've saved lives and confused the hunters." "This is just the beginning," David nodded, "and each success teaches us more. We understand the aliens better, their patterns, their weaknesses. Soon we can plan even larger operations." Mr. Jenkins smiled faintly. "Humans survive through intelligence, creativity, and unity. Today, we proved it on a larger scale. Tomorrow, we go further." Over the next few days, the survivors expanded their operations. Small groups moved through multiple districts, rescuing civilians, confusing patrols, and mapping out the city in great detail. Each successful mission strengthened morale and demonstrated that humans were not easy prey. Every time an alien patrol was tricked, delayed, or frustrated, humans gained valuable information for future operations. Alex noticed a pattern emerging. The aliens, despite their power, were not adapting quickly enough to the unpredictable movements of large groups. They could anticipate individuals or small groups, but not coordinated efforts involving dozens of humans acting together. That gap in their strategy became the key to humanity's larger plan. The final operation was audacious. Alex and his group aimed to rescue the largest concentration of civilians trapped in a high-rise complex near the city center, while simultaneously creating diversions that would draw multiple alien squads away. It was risky, but success would demonstrate humanity's growing strength and intelligence. Before dawn, the survivors moved into position. Civilians were instructed on how to move unpredictably, diversions were planned, and traps were set. Every detail was carefully considered. Fires, debris, sudden noises, and false signals were all used to confuse the hunters, making it nearly impossible for them to track human movements accurately. When the operation began, chaos reigned, but controlled chaos. Alex and his team guided civilians through hidden staircases, broken walls, and narrow passageways while diversions drew alien attention elsewhere. For the first time, humans were dictating the flow of the battle, not merely reacting to the hunters. The aliens reacted, but too slowly. They were strong, precise, and terrifying, but human ingenuity had created uncertainty, something their technology could not fully compensate for. Civilians were rescued, moving in groups carefully led by the survivors, while multiple patrols were lured into traps that delayed them and forced them to recalculate their scanning patterns repeatedly. By midday, the operation was complete. Hundreds of civilians had been rescued. Alien patrols were frustrated and delayed. Humans had learned, adapted, and executed a complex, coordinated plan that directly challenged their hunters. It was a turning point. Humanity was no longer just resisting. They were winning small battles and proving that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most advanced enemy. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins gathered with the rescued civilians in a safe zone. Faces were tired but filled with hope. Every smile, every word of thanks, every look of determination was proof that humanity had survived, adapted, and fought back. Mr. Jenkins spoke quietly, his voice steady but strong. Today, humans have proven something important. We are not prey, we are clever, brave, and united, and the aliens have learned that hunting us will never be easy. Sarah added, we've shown that intelligence and courage are more powerful than fear. Every person we save, every trap we set, every move we make teaches the aliens that humans cannot be controlled easily. David nodded. We have the knowledge, the experience, and the unity to continue. Today is proof that humans can fight back and win, even in the face of terrifying odds. Alex looked at the sky, at the hovering ships, and felt a surge of pride and determination. The aliens were still there, still powerful, still hunting. But humanity had changed the rules of engagement. Humans had learned to survive, to resist, and to outsmart the hunters, and that learning would continue. Over the following days, the aliens began to withdraw slowly. They had underestimated human unpredictability, intelligence, and unity. Small victories had taught them that hunting humans would not be easy. The aliens had strength, technology, and precision, but humans had something they could not calculate: courage, adaptability, and the will to survive. The survivors helped rebuild small parts of the city. Fires were put out, streets cleared, and safe zones established. Humans shared knowledge, taught survival skills, and coordinated to protect each other. Humanity had been hunted, yes, but they had proven they could resist, adapt, and win. Alex, Sarah, David, and Mr. Jenkins moved through the city, checking on civilians and coordinating future plans. Every rescued person, every clever trap, every diversion was a step toward reclaiming their world. Humans were no longer prey, they were a force to be reckoned with. In one high-rise, Alex looked at a group of children playing quietly, their laughter a strange but comforting sound in the ruined city. "We've done it," he said softly. "We've survived, and we've shown that humanity cannot be controlled or hunted without resistance." Sarah smiled. "We've saved lives, taught others to be brave, and outsmarted a powerful enemy. That's humanity." Mr. Jenkins nodded. "And we'll continue to do so. The aliens may return, but they will never underestimate us again. Humans are clever, brave, and united. That's more powerful than any weapon." David added. Today is a victory, yes, but it's also a lesson. We've learned that together, humans can survive and fight back, even against enemies that seem unstoppable. The alien ships hovered above for a time, observing, calculating, but they began to retreat. Their attacks became less frequent, less coordinated. Humans had proven that they could not be hunted easily, that intelligence and courage could outmatch advanced technology. As the survivors watched the ships disappear over the horizon, a sense of triumph filled the city. Fires still burned, streets were damaged, and the scars of invasion remained, but humanity had survived, adapted, and shown that they could resist. Alex looked at the group around him. We've learned something crucial. Humans are not weak. We survive because we think, because we are courageous, and because we act together. And today, we've shown the universe that humanity is not prey. Sarah, smiling, added, "We've survived, we've resisted, and we've won victories, and we will continue to do so. Humanity will never be underestimated again." Mr. Jenkins placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "The hunt is over for now. But humans have learned something important. Courage, intelligence, and unity are stronger than fear, and that knowledge will guide us into the future." David closed his notebook for the last time in the city. "We have survived, we have resisted, and we have shown that humans can win. And that's a victory no one can take away." The survivors moved through the city, helping rebuild, teaching others, and ensuring that humanity was stronger than before. The alien invasion had tested them, hunted them, and threatened their existence, but it had also shown the strength of the human spirit. Humanity had survived the hunt. Humanity had resisted. Humanity had won small victories that proved intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome even the most terrifying enemies. And in that triumph, hope was restored. Humanity was stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. They had survived the impossible, and the universe would never forget that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Alex, looking over the horizon, felt a fire in his chest. The aliens had come to hunt, but humans had proven they could fight, adapt, and survive. Humanity had endured, humanity had prevailed, and humanity would continue to thrive no matter the challenge.